And as I'm calling Mr. Pagaman Butelis, who is the CEO of the South African Heritage Resource Agency, was going to share with us some views on repatriation and restitution as part of transforming the cultural heritage sector. Did you know that maths and science never started in Europe? It came from our ancestors. What Europeans did was to transmit it to Europe. The three Greeks with the name of Pythagoras, and Plato, and Aristotle, they took this history from here. Students of maths will know that when they're reading Pythagoras' theorem, it never originated in Greek, it came from your ancestors. And I think you'll be able to beat them in class if you know that it never came from them. But academics, they have not interpreted this history well. So we're saying that interpret it very, very well. When our people build these huts, it is actually maths. It is geometry. It's an indigenous knowledge. Science started here in Africa, and Mapungubwe resembles just that. Thank you so much.
Mete aungotoma Europa. Mete uba kabadzimu bashu. Musi bathu bashu bachitoma upata zvitanga zvezvi vachita mini yova indivo ine yatobva mubvoni hahashu kamvelele yashu. Mara makuwa vajiya ndivo hei vaishandukisa zvavonga tamusi mete ubva ka makuwa. Zvino rikuhumbura uri nga ndivo hei yaudiva uri mete wotoma karine vathu vatsvu kana kavadzimu vashu idzo lingedza nga nḓila dzoṱhe uri ni songo tsha dovha na fhirwa ngavho ngauri ndi zwa hani. Sitsho ke ntho ya botlhokwa ge le tseba gore metse yo o tswa kwa o thomile ke borakhuluku kwa lena le badimo ba eng dira gore le tlilo dila ka natla go lwa gore le seke la fetwa ke motho ka gobane le ya tseba dilo tše di tswa go borakhuluku ba lena. So le seke la dumela taba ya go botswa maaka ya gore dilo di tswa kae a di tswe poleke nngwe Mapungubwe. Le motho ya ka reng a le botsa re tisitše thabulo Mapungubwe le mmotsa gore a bolele nnete thabulo e thomile Mapungubwe. Re a leboga.
Ndima Cheloni Aucheni Ria Loja Tumelani Molweni Sanbonani Siyabonga. Honorable Deputy Minister Joyce Mapuda Fasi, Honorable MEC Ms. Joyce Mashamba, the CEO of the Freedom Park Trust, Dr. Wali Sarote, representative of Wits University, representative of the Northern Flagship Institute, our traditional leaders, friends, ladies and gentlemen, and all distinguished guests, you are welcome. Today will never be the same as yesterday, and the events will continue to tell a story of Mapungubwe as a place of cultural significance. It is in this place where African civilization, as we have been informed, was born. It has been said before that Mapungubwe existed between 1200 and 1300 AD in what is now called the Limpopo province. It included parts of Great Zimbabwe and Botswana. Historians often remind us that it is nationalism that produces a nation, not the other way around. Therefore, whatever happens to this part of the world also affects the Great Zimbabwe and also affects to Botswana. Hence, the story of this place is a very important one, not only to the people of this region, not only to the people of this province, but to the people of South Africa and the world at large. Thus, the joy of Mapungubwe people is the joy of all South Africans. Mapungubwe was the center of the largest kingdom on the subcontinent, where Africans traded gold and ivory with countries like China, India, and Egypt. This happened between 1200 and 1380. In other words, South Africa's international trade happened well before the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck in South Africa, or the arrival of the settlers in 1820. South Africans, or the people of Mapungubwe, realized long before that there is no country in the world that can survive on its own, or there's no economy in the world that could reside on its own. The economy, it is an interdependent variable, such as getting foreign currency, exchange of materials, and so on and so forth. It is such significant that made the South African Heritage Resources Agency, SARA, to declare this site as a national heritage site to illustrate the very same evolution of Mapungubwe as a mirror to all our nations. This helps in ensuring that the memory and the significance of the site continue to be a mirror of hope from generations and generations to come. This is a center of African engineering, where gold was changed from its hard form to be what it is known today as the golden rhino and any other product material. This is a center where international trade took place. Again, this site was later declared as the World Heritage Site. There has been a clarion call by most South Africans to return back the values of this country. This involves, among other things, the heritage of the country, the human remains of the people and the objects. Hence, this event today continues to interpret heritage in a manner that is understood by many South Africans. It is not uncommon to hear people say, "Bring back my child's bones," or "Bring back my father's spirits." The reasoning behind this call is to say, let the spirits rest in peace. They must rest on the land that is accessible to those who are directly affected, not be held by the universities in their laboratories. It is not surprising, therefore, that Shoko, in 2006, he published a paper called "My Bones Shall Rise Again." It reminds us that spirits and land are central to the restoration of human dignity. Thus, when we talk of the human remains, we in fact talk about the real human beings who need respect and treated as the spirits that live among ourselves. This cleansing ceremony bestows respect to the ancestors whose spirit should reside on this land that has been prepared for that. It is within the same framework that in 2003, Sarah and the DAC had been very instrumental in ensuring the return of Sarah Bartman back to South Africa. There is no doubt that reburials and repatriation create new worlds of meaning for the people. They help to close a chapter as the national rituals, such as cleansing ceremony, are meant to heal the wounds and allow our ancestors to rest with us. The challenges of repatriation and restitutions are not only unique to South Africa. If I may cite some examples, over the past 30 years, even presently, the Native Americans and the Australian Aborigines have increasingly been able to assert their claims to moral authority, to cultural disposition of both the remains of their ancestors and the land they occupied. This means that the meaning of heritage is something that cannot remain static, is something that cannot be locked into cupboards by universities and laboratories, but is something that must live among the people. People must continue to define heritage in terms of their own experiences. But the challenge that we have is, when we talk of repatriation and when we talk of restitution, who defines heritage? Is it the people who claim that they discovered those human remains, or are the people themselves? The point that I am making is that heritage, to be meaningful, must be interpreted and must be defined by the very same people who are affected and must be the ones who must determine the direction that heritage must take. If it was right then to simply relocate Mapungubwe's human remains without consulting anyone, the same may not be applicable today. Regardless of the amount of knowledge that was derived, if today it is wrong to simply ignore the right of the communities to have a say over what they consider as their ancestors, it will always be wrong to any generation. No one can quantify the amount of joy that was displayed by communities when they finally received the symbolic certificates that marks the returns of their human remains. Notably, it was about reconnecting with their ancestors. This is in sharp contrast with what Paul Trainer in his paper he published that is called Return and Repatriation Ethics. According to Paul, he says, according to Paul on human remains, he's of the view that those people who claim the returns of human remains have got no ethical or moral basis. He seems to question the validity of the claim as he sees this as something unethical propagated by what he calls the nationalist. Obviously, Paul's arguments are very myopic, misguided, and fail to understand the basic principle of human rights. He fails also to understand the basic principles of morality, which demands that one should have capacity to distinguish what is wrong from what is right, and what is right from what is wrong. It cannot be wrong for every nation in the world to claim their human remains. The recent claim made by the New Zealanders, as an example, Maori communities, who want their mummified head being returned from France back to the community where it was wrongfully and forcibly removed. If one is to honor Paul's argument of views that it is morally wrong to claim for one's human remains, it will mean it was right then for Sarah Bartman to be forcibly removed from a country of birth and be exposed to all forms of humiliation. Clearly, this argument has no room either in the theory of ethics or practice of ethics. What is morally right is to accept that certain decisions that were unconsciously taken are harmful to those involved, either dead or alive. Hence, it is important to acknowledge the progressive move or decision made by those institutions that decided to return these human remains back to Mapungubwe, such as Wales University and the Northern Flagship Institute. The challenge that we have here is that you've got academics on the other side who still want to conduct research to discover new knowledge and new interpretations to science. On the other hand, you've got communities who says, this is our ancestors. You cannot do as you please. Whatever direction that you must take, you must consult us. On the other hand, you've got a particular group of professionals who want to interpret heritage according to their own understanding. I think if we're serious about transforming our heritage, we need to say, how best do we allow the communities to express their own views on how best we could drive our heritage in the country. Hence, today it is encouraging that institutions like the National Heritage Council are in a process of formulating a transformation charter that will assist us a lot in addressing some of the challenges that we are facing. And also, we are in partnership with other institutions such as the National Heritage Council, the Freedom Park, to continue to reinterpret the meaning and the interpretation of our heritage. I think with the dawn of democracy in this country, it is possible for the communities to claim what belongs to them. Of course, they will have to follow the law. I think in short, once again, thank you very much indeed for all of us who have been involved in this process. At last, we are seeing the fruits. On that note, thank you very much.
Thanks, Shenge.
Interpretation.
Makasi makura.
A summary of summary.
Cheri chichebagi bulletin. ke tše dibuledi tše dingwe di buletšeng tšona. Sa bohlokwa se ba boletšeng se sa tshwaneng le tše ba batho ba bangwe ba se boletšeng ke sa o bušwa morao ha mašaledi a borakhulukhulu ba rena ba re ke tshwanelo ya gore batho ba be le toka ya o bolela le o bolela gore marapo mašaledi a borakhulukhulu a bona ge a boya a tshwanetse o boya ka sebopeo se sefe ba bontšha gore mafase a mantšintši o tshwane bele ka bo New Zealand le kae ba ile ba dira se se dirilweng ke batho ba dutšeng mo sa gore re nyaka mašaledi a batho ba borena a boya morago ba re bjale gore re tšwele botse pele go na le diruteng tše di nyakang gore di bolele ge di bolela ka setšo di bolele go ya ka tlhaloso ye bona ba nyakang ka yona ba re ganthe a se botse re tshwanetse gore setšhaba batho ka bo bona ba fe nako ya gore ba bolele maikutlo a bona le gore ba nyaka dilo tša bona di dirwa ka mokgomang ka putfatsa ba ba kwamba gore Mapungo aya a wisa masaledi a bo makhulukuku washu hezwi zwithu a si zwiswa zwo itea u bva kale nahone a zwo ngo khakhea vha ri mara vha khou vhona zwi zwone zwavhuḓi zwa uri musi u tshi itiwa hezwi zwithu vhathu kha vha newe tshifhinga na uri vha tendele u amba nga nḓila ine vhone vha ṱoḓa zwithu zwi tshi itiwa ngayo vha ri hone vhoradipfunzo vha ṱoḓa u ṱalutshedza hezwi zwithu nga nḓila ine vhone vhane vha ṱoḓisa ngayo vha ri hone a si zwavhuḓi ndi zwa uri musi ri tshi ita zwithu kha ri zwi ite vhane vha zwithu vha hone nahone vha tshi amba uri nḓila ine vha khou ṱoḓa zwithu zwi tshi itiwa ngayo ndi ifhio arali hu na muṅwe muthu a khou ri zwithu hezwi zwe nda zwi ṱalutshedza thongo zwi ṱalutshedza zwone u a ḓiimisa tshanḓa amba uri a si zwone ndo livhuwa.
Thank you so much. We're not in a funeral here, really. We are not going to allow a situation where we are really mourning instead of celebrating. We should be really mourning, we've done that, but we are celebrating now. So I'm just going to break this protocol and just ask one group just to wake us up. I can see that there's a lot of consultation with ancestors. People are sleeping, already. And so just to wake us up, if there's a group that is really ready, so that, our minds are brought back to where we are, after this very wonderful speech by Mr. Mtilis.
The man that will play this country, Chigombera. Record Chigombera. Ke chikati taita gane. Bogeledis. Arbon. Arigimi Kuruguna.
Yeah, if they can do it fast.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful dance from the group. Can we continue, please? Silence, please.
Alsjeblieft kan jullie allemaal alsjeblieft daarachter. Ons vragen mensen laten de stoel vak. Ons wil beginnen. Baie dankie. Kolibuwa. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Kapitein, praat samen met uw mensen. Ik zie alle mensen. Jullie staan niet zomaar daar. Laat die mensen. Zet ons wil beginnen. Let people be seated. Rumbera bat wat zule pasi, bat dulam fasi return. Relevant.
Okay. Monate Mome. Let's continue. I just want to tell you as well that what you are seeing here today, as Mr. Machila has said, the National Heritage Council of South Africa is also here sponsoring a documentary. Our mother, who are doing this thing, the dances and so on, we have got an agreement with SABC that the documentary will have to be played for South Africans, so that this, what you've seen here today, becomes really part of our national calendar, and people of South Africa know about it. Fortunately, SABC has agreed that this documentary that will emerge from here up until the day the president will be addressing here, that documentary will actually be used by the public broadcaster, so that whoever is in the Eastern Cape, is in the Northern Cape, is in Mapungubwe, South Africans will have to know about this history, and that is going to happen.
But basho ziyamba uri musi TV tisendera tsini nabo abate ushaba ngauri hezwo zwithu zwine zwa khoyo itiwa hapa ubva namusi uya swika ḓuvha line muhulisa mu president wa shango vha ḓo ḓa fhano zwithu hezwi zwine zwa ḓovha zwi tshi khou rekhodiwa zwi ḓo dzhiwa na vha SABC vho tenda hu ḓo swika tshifhinga tshine vha vhona mushumo hoyu woṱhe ubva mathomoni u swika mafheleledzoni awo zwi amba uri havha vhathu vha khou lingedza nga nḓila dzoṱhe uri zwithu hezwi zwine zwa khou itea hafha zwi songo dzumbaho ke ka kgopelo uri motho o be le maitshwaro ka gore dilo tše he TV o tšere o dira dilo tše dingwe tša go tšwa tseleng le bo Eastern Cape le bo Western Cape ba tlo di bona ka gore ntho ke ntho ya bothokwa e tshwanetse go ba history ya rena ya gore nako le nako re kgona go bona gore tšatši lefe o feta letšatši le mopresidente a tlileng ka lona go bo o tšwelela eng ko Mapungubwe. Thank you.
Now let's get remarks by the representative of the indigenous groups. But before that, I'm sorry. We have an item from the South African National Parks. I'm sorry that I've skipped that. Edgar Neluvalani is going to address us. He's the heritage manager of St. Parks. The CEO, Dr. Mabunda, is not here with us. Remember, St. Parks is one of the very important institutions preserving our natural heritage. And as I've said to others, that Edgar as well will also, do his summary. I know that my speakers would want to stick to their text that they prepared before. I know it's very difficult to manage leaders, but I'm also appealing as well that if there really can be a summary, so that the guest speaker or the keynote address must come at a time where people can still listen, and also the Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson and Program Director. I have done my best already to cut the speech short, and I believe it will be short enough. It's an exciting day for South African national parks that we are all here today to celebrate culture and the heritage of our people. Deputy Minister Environmental Affairs and MEC from Sports, Arts and Culture, CEOs present here, Mahosi, traditional leaders. It is a pleasure that we are here at Mapungubwe, a place of origin and our home. And I believe that we all have a sense of being at home. I think we can agree that throughout the country, a new desire for a true African identity has re-emerged, addressing disparities in heritage representation for the past 10 years of South Africa's young democracy has been at the core of nation building in the country. Although archaeological research and the excavations at Mapungubwe, for example, started over 70 years back from the 1930s, the first interpretations of this area and the heritage that was discovered only sought to deny the knowledge that such a rich heritage and history could be linked to the indigenous people of Southern Africa. Attempts at reconstructing the story of Mapungubwe was the domain of archaeologists, whilst the majority of South Africans were subtly kept away from the evidence and the story, therefore could not celebrate it for all these more than 70 years. The Mapungubwe cultural landscape has in the recent years re-emerged as a crown jewel and priceless gift of South Africa's young democracy. Mapungubwe is increasingly bringing South Africans across ethnic and racial divides together in the quest to understand deeper an ancient mighty kingdom of the South. From the highest office in the land and with one of the most prestigious presidential awards named after this great ancient kingdom. Although the role of archaeologists and anthropologists has been seen as key towards the much needed reinstatement of the people's identities, questions have also been asked about their ability and willingness to involve local stakeholders and communities. There is clearly a need to challenge power relations and dispositions towards communities and move towards an equal partnership that seeks to generate knowledge and information within collaborative and participatory processes. Recent national discussion within the country, both coordinated by the NHC, SARA, and everybody within the heritage sector, highlighted the untapped potential of both tangible and intangible cultural heritage to contribute to local economic development and tourism. Some of the cultural heritage sites within sandparks have the potential of being declared national and world heritage sites. Mapungubwe has set the scene for sandparks and is a good indication that national parks can as well become major tourism destinations on their cultural significance. Sandparks acknowledges, however, that social value of heritage also goes beyond that of a tool with which to promote tourism. It is therefore important for us to find ways of responding to critical questions such as these ones. How can cultural heritage come to play a fundamental and stimulating part in the lives of individuals and communities in the country? How can we create a balance between culture and biodiversity? How can it be integrated in people's daily lives? And how can both natural and cultural resources within sandparks become the pride and joy of all South Africans? And finally, I just want to indicate some of the important policy statements and proposed policy that sandparks wants to implement in terms of this event and life after the reburial of human remains. And as draft policy, SANParks proposes...
I'm sorry, there's an announcement about our listening abilities in the meeting. So if we can be quiet, because it's disturbing recording. I said here that there's a documentary and the talking is disturbing the minute was there. But I know that is now summarizing.
Sazwe batho ra ba botsa uri zwithu zwiko recordiwa uri zwi do bonala kha shango ḽoṱhe hezwi vhone vha tshi amba zwi ita uri havha vha u recorda vha pfe maipfi yavho a tshi khou dzhenelela zwa ita uri zwithu zwi tshimbile zwavhuḓi so ri kgopela uri liri tu ebile batho ba ba bolelang re a ba lebella re a ba thika re ka se kgone ba fa dijo re le kgopela uri le fomone
re go liwa vasongo ditaetsa zwiḽiwa. I was just referring to a draft policy that we proposed in response of the reburial of Mapungubwe's royalty. The policy statement reads as follows: all relevant members of affected communities and cultural groups will have free access to burial sites within Mapungubwe National Park for purposes of memorial, education and other cultural activities. Permission will be granted on condition that an application letter endorsed by the leadership of that particular group is submitted at least 3 weeks prior to a date of the proposed visit. However, standard safety, visitor control measures and other national park rules and regulations will apply during such visits to burial sites. Based on the understanding and principle that all cultural heritage is part of the country's national estate and therefore protected by law to promote nation building and identity, SANParks will not accept any attempt by any members of a specific single cultural group or community to have exclusive rights of access to ownership of any burial sites associated remains. And I have a message from the CEO of SANParks, Dr. Mabunda. He passed his regards to you. He would have really liked to be here. But we are encouraged about progress and about community cooperation and participation and the spirit of celebration that is here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Edgar.
Milayo ine dolanga udhalela fhethu henefho he vhathu vha vhewa hone ngauri hezwi zwine ra khou zwi ita vha zwi sa khou itelwa vhathu vha fhano fhedzi zwi vha zwi khou itelwa shango ḽoṱhe ḽa South Africa. Zwino zwi funa u tsireledzwa ngauri a zwi tshavha zwithu zwa muthu, ndi zwithu zwa shango. Zwino vha vha khou sumbedza nga nḓila yeneyi ye vhaṅwe vhathu vha vha khou ambisa ngayo. A u tou vha vhona phambano khulu, phambano i tou vha yeneyi ya uri vho amba nga milayo nga thungo iyi. Vha dovha vha sumbedza uri dzindumeliso dzi no bva kha muhulwane wavho Vho Mabunda. Vhathu vha hezwo vhane vha ri vhutsa ka taba ya mulayo u tshwanetse uri u ṱhomphiwe. Ri a tseba uri Mapungubwe mo re beng ona lefelo le ke lefelo la lefatshe ka moka la South Africa la e uri go na le batho ba ba beleilweng ba etswa mo goba badudi ba mo. Go tshwanetse o ba le molao o tshwanetseng gore o bone gore go ba le toka, a gona motho yo a dirang ka boithatelo le gore ge motho a etla mo go na le melao e tshwanetseng gore e latelwe, dikgopelo go ya ka molao gore dilo tše di beng mo e ba thipa ya mmuso. So ba bontšha gore ditumedišo di tswang go o mogolo wa bona Bo Mabunda gore batho le thagane. Re a leboga.
Hello. Thank you so much. We are now going to the custodians of this important activity. the custodians, the Bangana cultural movement, on whose wishes that this particular day happens. The Department of Environmental Affairs, SARA, NHC, would not have done this if it was not for the community of this place. That has actually allowed that this vision of this government, all the institutions, Freedom Park, that are here without a community. And this is the time for community. The movement itself to salute the ancestors. The president of the Bangama Cultural Movement, Mr. Savongolum. President, there's a cultural group that is going to just come because the president, they feel that the president cannot just come without a group coming. They are going to
Vane vafetu, vane vashaku. Ndipo nebebaita uri Department ya Environmental Affairs na Tourism ikono itawo mushumo ubenga ndila ine ya bahona. Chino chipinga choshika cha uri vane vazvitu vambe mupiwa havo. Benyi nifilo lela Mapungubwe. Nibona baba chenju ngubulela byani. Babonchele thabo la bona lo bulela hore ba ke kwa byana. So department ya rena ibe ka se go utswelela ge batho ba ise gona ke le.
I will request all these representatives that are going to speak on this part to come forward, as each and every one of them will speak and then another one will come with the performance also, you know, and the praise coming taking place. you so much. Can we give them a round of applause, please? The President, Mr. Sekwavulimu,
Yes, thank you.
will now come. As Mr. Sekwavulimu is coming, he is the President of the cultural movement here. And I will request the Chairman of the Chivula royal family also to come, because this is the real one item. Thanks so much.
Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Environmental Affairs and Tourism, Mayor Mapungubwe, the Honorable MEC, Mayor Mashamba, Dr. Surude, representatives from the University of Pretoria, and perhaps the University of the Witwatersrand, Honorable Mahosi, and all distinguished guests present here. I greet you all.
Mariko mbele rubatukana do muzachikona chidoku mulabo chilele pasi. Mutu ukwamba rono diamba rukwekene balanguli bachikona. Vanga batamusi bwambo bakotodoro muranga pando abachiyamba kuparona chikona. Kachilele pasi ri control zvitu chipinga chidosvika chawisa chikona. Ara bachitoda chijenisiwa.
Thank you, interpreter. Thank you very much. It is not easy to speak after the great scholars. And this situation in which I find myself reminds me of a certain philosopher. Chairperson, who was asked a question. What is the meaning of is? I-S. Is. And the philosopher stumbled. And in attempting to answer the question, he said, I know what it means. But when I'm asked what it means, then I do not know what it means. I am in that situation. I don't know what to say. But all the same, I must say something. I must remark on what happened here today. We are celebrating, as one speaker said, the great works that our ancestors did. Had it not been because of them, we wouldn't have gathered here in this fashion. And indeed, again this reminds me of another great scholar who said, Chairperson, lives of great men all remind us, and indeed, the lives of our ancestors remind us, that we may live our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints which perhaps another sailing over life's troubled mail, our forlorn and shipwrecked brothers, seeing may take heart again. So as a nation, as different communities, as different stakeholders, we are learning something from what our ancestors left us. I only wish we could follow their footprints, and we shall reach somewhere. Mr. Chairperson, the conclusion that we have reached here today, as different communities, as different stakeholders, was not as smooth as it appears. There were many hurdles to jump. And there were many questions asked. Perhaps some of these questions were not answered. But all the same, here is the day that we have been waiting for. It is here. It is today. We want to thank the government in this way. It wouldn't have been possible for us to assemble or communicate in this fashion if the old regime was still ruling. We wouldn't have met and think of our ancestors. We wouldn't. Our maker, because we have a maker now. And the maker is not only for the Muslims in the East. We have created a maker today. Our maker is over there. You have seen it. Where people went through. And they went through. And in other words, we would knock down and die. And there, today we have decided, here, where these people have lost their lives, here, we are going to make it our maker, the maker. So I understand and believe that this is not the end today. Because we have this maker of ours. I think the MEC for Environmental Affairs and Tourism will agree with me that I don't think there will be anybody to stop us to come and assemble and pay respect to our ancestors annually. And I think that is what we're going to do. And we want to thank the Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism. And we would like to thank Dr. Serute for taking such an active part. And at times, trying to bring us together when things were falling apart, when the center perhaps could not hold. Thank you. Well, there isn't much time. There isn't much time. But I think this is enough. Oh, this is enough. What else can I say?